اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. What is it? People are there? नहीं in Pakistan. वो टीवी बंद कर देता बाहर देखो वो टीवी बंद है. नहीं हो रहा. अब आएगा तो फिर मना रखा। मोमिन तशरीफ ले आए, जश्न इमाम हसन सलाम शुरू हो रहा है। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। रिक्वेस्टिंग डॉक्टर अस्करी को हदीस किसा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعوذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني وغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. وما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وسمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. وأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب هوزي. قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. وما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وسمرة فؤادي. وقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وقاك تحت الكساء. ودنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه. السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. وتحزن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء. وقال: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شعب يا أمتي. قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. وأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. وقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. وقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة عقيب بن عم رسول الله. فقلت: نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. وأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيء وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي. وأذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه. يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بسعتي. قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يعلمني ما يعلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم واجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورزوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. وقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. وقال الأمين جبريل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء. وقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. وقال جبريل يا رب أتحزن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا. وقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فحبط الأمين جبريل. وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي العلى يقرئك السلام ويقصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم وهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله. وقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. وقال لعبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. وقال علي النبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. وقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. وقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفعز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. وقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. وقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد.
Thank you, Askari bhai. सलवात भेजें नवाजुल्लाह 47 रिजवी पर कसीदा 40 रिजवी.
सल्लल्लाहु मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद। आप सबको इमाम हसन अलैहिस्सलाम की विलादत की मुबारकबाद। बस एक दो शेर है और एक कसीदा समाअत करें। हसन को बादशाह ख़ास व आम कहते हैं, अली का नायब व ख़ायम मुक़ाम कहते हैं। अली का नायब व ख़ायम मुक़ाम कहते हैं, दलील एक ही काफ़ी है उनकी अज़मत में। दलील एक ही काफ़ी है उनकी अज़मत में, उन्हें हुसैन भी अपना इमाम कहते हैं। انہیں حسین بھی اپنا امام کہتے ہیں۔ ہر سمت کائنات میں جلوہ حسن کا ہے، قرآن کے لبوں پہ قصیدہ حسن کا ہے۔ رازق ہے کائنات میں زہرا کے دونوں لال، رازق ہے کائنات میں زہرا کے دونوں لال، پانی حسین دیتے ہیں دانا حسن کا ہے، پانی حسین دیتے ہیں دانا حسن کا ہے۔ صلوات محمد وآل محمد۔ بس ایک قصیدہ سماعت کریں۔ خدا کے کرم سے، صلوات محمد وآل محمد۔ خدا کے کرم سے نبی کے چمن میں یہ گل مسکرایا سویرے سویرے، مبارک مہینے میں وارث علی کا زمانے میں آیا سویرے سویرے۔ یہ معصوم زہرا کا لخت جگر ہے، یہ شجر امامت کا پہلا ثمر ہے، جناب امام حسن در حقیقت رسول خدا کی دعا کا اثر ہے، خود اللہ کی رحمت نے آ کر علی کا ہے در کھٹکھٹایا سویرے سویرے۔ کسے پتا اسی وجہ سے میرا قصیدہ قبول ہو جائے، کیونکہ یہ ساتھ پڑھ رہا ہے۔ کیا لے کے جاوا لکھے جا مکمل، ابھی تو سنا ہی نہیں تھا کسی نے، میرا یہ قصیدہ حوالے اڑیا بس ایک رات میں ہی پہنچ کر مدینے، طہارت کے جھولے میں سوئے حسن کو جگا کر سنایا سویرے سویرے۔ جھلاتی ہے جھولا جناب حسن کا، کبھی چہرے مجھے تبا چومتی ہے، اچانک ہی در پر دی دست کسی نے، جو بی بی نے کھولا تو کیا دیکھتی ہے، لباس جنا لے کے بہشت بری سے جبریل لایا سویرے سویرے، مبارک مہینے میں وارث علی کا زمانے میں آیا سویرے سویرے۔ صلوات محمد وآل محمد۔ وہی اچھا پڑھ رہا تھا۔
شکریہ، بہت تعریف تھا، بہت حسن سلوات دی۔ پچھے چمن بھائی کو قصیدہ، چمن بھائی، چمن جعفری۔
محمد وآل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد۔ بارے دیگر صلوات صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ اگر آپ لوگ دیکھتے ہوں اس میں، اگر کلام آپ دیکھتے ہوں کتابوں میں، تو بڑی انفارچونیٹ بات ہے کہ امام علی کے لیے، امام حسین کے لیے آپ کو بے تحاشا کلام ملتا ہے، امام آخر الزماں کے لیے بھی بہت کلام ملتا ہے، امام حسن کے لیے بہت آپ کو ڈھونڈنا پڑتا ہے، اس قدر کم ہے کلام اویلیبل۔ اس میں سے ہم نے کچھ نکالا ہے، لیکن اس کی کوئی اس کو صرف آپ کے سامنے پیش کرتے ہیں انشاءاللہ۔ کوئی اس کی طرح ہم نے نہیں بنائی ہے، تو اس کو ایسے پڑھتے ہیں۔ سیرت شبر پہ جو پیہم عمل ہوتا رہے، سیرت شبر پہ جو پیہم عمل ہوتا رہے، امن کا پرچم زمانے میں سدا اونچا رہے، امن کا پرچم زمانے میں سدا اونچا رہے، اے طلبگار سکون قلب پائے گا سکون، اے طلبگار سکون قلب پائے گا سکون، گر خدائے امن کا لب پر تیرے کلمہ رہے، شرپسندی خود بخود دم توڑ دے گی ایک دن، شرپسندی خود بخود دم توڑ دے گی ایک دن، اسوۂ شبر پہ گر دنیا عمل پیرا رہے، اسوۂ شبر پہ گر دنیا عمل پیرا رہے، چاہیے اس کو رہے عشق حسن میں جان دے، چاہیے اس کو رہے عشق حسن میں جان دے، جس کی خواہش ہو کہ بعد مرگ بھی زندہ رہے، جس کی خواہش ہو کہ بعد مرگ بھی زندہ رہے، ہے دعا میری حسن کے لال کی آمد تلک، ہے دعا میری حسن کے لال کی آمد تلک، خانہ دلدار میں جشن حسن ہوتا رہے، خانہ دلدار میں جشن حسن ہوتا رہے۔ آخر شعر ہے، اور یہ سہیل بھائی کا لکھا ہوا ہے کلام، جس کا سرمایہ ہو شبر کی مودت اے سہیل، جس کا سرمایہ ہو شبر کی مودت اے سہیل، اس کی نظروں میں بھلا کیا دولت دنیا رہے، اس کی نظروں میں بھلا کیا دولت دنیا رہے، سیرت شبر پہ جو پیہم عمل ہوتا رہے، امن کا پرچم زمانے میں سدا اونچا رہے۔ صلوات بھیجے محمد و آل محمد، صلی اللہ محمد و آل محمد۔ صلوات بھیجے بے بار دیگر، صلی اللہ محمد و آل محمد۔ حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا، حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا، ادائے اجر رسالت سے کون روکے گا، حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا، شریف خون رگوں میں ہو موجزن جس کے، شریف خون شریف خون رگوں میں ہو موجزن جس کے، اسے علی کی محبت سے کون روکے گا، حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا، علی سے بغض بھی ہے خواہش بہشت بھی ہے، علی سے بغض بھی ہے، خواہش بہشت بھی ہے، سوال کرتے ہو جنت سے کون روکے گا؟ انہوں نے پروانہ دینا ہے بھائی داخلے کا، ان سے بغض رکھ کے کہاں جائیں گے؟ محبت ابو طالب مطاع ایمان ہے، محبت ابو طالب مطاع ایمان ہے، اب اس کو جبر سے دولت سے کون روکے گا؟ حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے؟ یہ دیکھنا ہے کہ ماتم کے داغ یا سجدے، یہ دیکھنا ہے کہ ماتم کے داغ یا سجدے، فشار قبر کی زحمت سے کون روکے گا؟ علی کی بیٹی علی کا مزاج رکھتی ہے، علی کی بیٹی علی کا مزاج رکھتی ہے، یزید اس کو خطابت سے کون روکے گا؟ حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا؟ آخری شعر ہے ریحان اعظمی صاحب کا، دعائے زہرا سے ریحان ہم حسین کے ہیں، دعائے زہرا سے ریحان ہم حسین کے ہیں، ہمیں حسین کی خدمت سے کون روکے گا؟ حسن حسین کی مدحت سے کون روکے گا؟ عطائے اجر رسالت سے کون روکے گا؟ صلوات دیجیے گا محمد و آل محمد، صلی اللہ محمد و آل محمد۔
چمن بھائی شکریہ، بہت بہت صلوات بھیجیں۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد۔ We are Rakina Jafriya Qibla. Thanks for the Qibla Tayyib Muswi. He is a son of Qibla. Everyone knows the well-known person Fazil Muswi, and he came here first time in Jafriya from California. We are welcome him. And now tonight is a Jashan for Imam Hassan Islam. I'm requesting him for the take a member. Bahut buland salawat bhejein. Inshallah, Maulana will be here every day for lecture for 6:45 to 7:30 every day. And inshallah, just tell everyone, all the kids, to come here. Inshallah, all the lectures are going to be in English. Thank you.
Please, before we get started, please recite Surah Fatiha for your marhumin and for the marhumin of the sponsors of tonight's lecture and iftar. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah. اللهم اغفرهم وارحمهم واسكنهم بجوار محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يثنى معه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان أرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, in the next 20-25 minutes, I will try to give as much information about this second light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I should say, not just the second light of Imam, but the second light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do I say this? When you read the ziyarat of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, there's one phrase that you read, and that phrase is Assalamu alayka ya Nurullah. May peace be upon you, O light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's sad that we know about that third light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. We know about the first light of Imamat when it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we know about the other lights when it comes to Imam Zaman alayhi salam. But when it comes to some of these lights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, for example, Imam Muhammad Taqi alayhi salam, for example, Imam Naqi alayhi salam, for example, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam. When it comes to commemorating the nuzul of these lights, you don't see the centers as full when it comes to commemorating the nuzul of the first light of Imamat. When it comes to the 13th of Rajab, the centers will be completely full. When it comes to, inshallah, the 21st of Ramadan, the centers will be completely full. When it comes to the 3rd of Shaban, the centers are completely full. When it comes to the 10th of Muharram, the centers are completely full. But why is it that when it comes to the 15th of Ramadan, we do not give that same importance? He's still the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, is he not? He's still the son of Fatimatul Zahra, is he not? He's still the grandson of Rasulullah, is he not? Then why is it that we don't give as much importance to this grandson of Rasulullah as we do to Imam Hussein alayhi salam? This is something for the Shias to think about. For the Shias to think about. When it comes to this personality, how many of us know some incidents that happened in his life? When it comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we know about Imam Hussein. But what we know about Imam Hussein alayhi salam is what? Most of us know about what happened during Karbala. That's it. When it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, if you were to ask someone, can you tell me one saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen? They'll say, you're asking about a saying, a quote of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Nahju Balagha is enough. When you ask about a miracle that Amir al-Mu'mineen performed, they'll tell you every single miracle that they've memorized from when they were children. But when you ask them about a quote from Imam Hassan alayhi salam, I don't know. When you ask about a miracle that Imam Hassan alayhi salam performed, I don't know. When you ask about one incident that happened in the life of Imam Hassan alayhi salam other than the Sulah, I don't know. Even if you ask him, why was it that Imam Hassan alayhi salam was forced to sign that treaty with Muawiyah, we don't know. And it's come to a point where today there are some Shias that say Imam Hassan alayhi salam should not have signed that peace treaty. Shias, Imam Hassan should not have signed that peace treaty, as if they know better than who they consider to be Imam. As if they know better. This is why tonight I want to look into the life of Imam Hassan and look at why Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he signed that peace treaty. Just remember one thing. This is a qawl of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And this is actually a shikwa of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. What does he say? He says, I wish our Shias, or I wish my Shias treated me the same way they treat my brother Hussein. I wish my Shias treated me the same way they treated my brother Hussein. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he wasn't just looking at his time period. No, he was looking in the future also. What does that mean? You can see it today. The treatment that we give Imam Hussein alayhi salam isn't at the same level as Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Why? Was his shahadat somehow less than the shahadat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam? No. Was the wiladat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam somehow greater than the wiladat of Imam Hassan alayhi salam? No. When they're on equal footing in the eyes of Rasulullah, then why do we not put them on equal footing? That's true. The shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is different than the shahadat of all the other imams. That's absolutely true. But the reason Imam Hussein alayhi salam was able to sacrifice his life and get that status is why? Is because of that treaty that Imam Hassan alayhi salam had signed. What was one of the conditions in that treaty? Do you all know? One of the conditions in that treaty that Imam Hassan alayhi salam signed was that he told Muawiyah that after he dies, the Khilafat is to go to him. Is to go to Imam Hassan. And if he's not alive, then it's to go to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Yet what does Muawiyah do in his own lifetime? He breaks that treaty and he makes who? He makes his son Yazid the successor after him. He makes his son Yazid the successor after him. That treaty of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, we have Muslims today that look at that treaty and they say, look at Imam Hassan. He signed the if Muawiyah was kafir, why is he signing a peace treaty with Muawiyah? Why is Imam Hassan signing a peace treaty with Muawiyah? It doesn't matter if Muawiyah was a kafir or a Muslim. Why did the Holy Prophet sign a peace treaty with the kuffar of Mecca when it came to Hudaybiyah? Did that matter? Did their kufr or did their iman matter to the Holy Prophet? No, but they were still kafir, were they not? Just because he signed that peace treaty did not make them Muslims. Even today, Muslims, they have peace treaties with what? Non-Muslim nations. Does that somehow make those non-Muslim nations greater, or does that somehow make those non-Muslim nations into Muslim nations? No, it doesn't. But when it comes to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, when Imam Hassan alayhi salam came down to this world, and I use came down to this world because I use the word nuzul when it comes to the Ayman, it doesn't matter which one of them it is. Because when you read any of their ziyarat, they all say this one phrase that Imam Hassan has is Assalamu alaikum nurullah, light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to remember that light is itself created. Light is a created thing. I don't want people to think that, oh, he's become ghali. No. Light is a created thing. But what happens to light? Light, if you dim it a bit, can you see it? If you dim it more, what happens to that light? It gets put out. It gets put out, yes or no? Yes. This light is a created thing. These Aima alayhim salam are created beings, just like that light. It's our eyes that are able to see that light or not able to see that light. It's our eyes. If we're not able to see that light, that means that there's a deficiency in what? In us. In us. The angels, what are they made of? Sometimes I will be asking, so I do want to respond because this is the only way I know that the people that are listening, they're actually listening to my lectures. So please, the angels, what are they made of? Nur. What is nur? Light. When they come down to this world, what form do they take? When Jibreel alayhi salam, he came down to this world, what form did he take? Did he not take the form of a human being? Yes. The angels that came to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, when they came to him to give the glad tidings to Hazrat Sarah, did they not come down to Hazrat Ibrahim in the form of a human being? Yes. So those lights that are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as lights, when they come down to this materialistic world, they need to take the form of material. Material. Why? Because this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this universe. This is how this universe is run. When those angels who are created out of nur, when they come down to this world, they need to take on a materialistic aspect. So when these lights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the first Imam to the last Imam, from the first Masum to the 14th Masum, when they come down to this world, they also need to take on the form of this human being. They also take on the form of this human being. Being ghali would mean that I only look at the nurani aspect of the aima and I leave aside the jismani aspect. No, we look at both aspects, but we can't deny their nurani aspect. Because as soon as we start to deny their nurani aspect, then what happens to us? Then we start becoming muqassirin. Then we start doubting in what they are or who they are. So when it comes to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, 15th of Ramadan, and the narration state that when the Holy Prophet came to know that Imam Hassan alayhi salam had come to this world, the narration state that he quickly went to Lady Zahra's house. In comparison to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam came to this world, the narration state that the Holy Prophet, he was saddened. And when he was going towards Lady Zahra's house, he wasn't walking or he wasn't pacing fast. No, he was walking to Lady Zahra's house slowly. But when he came to Lady Zahra's house for the wiladat of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he asked Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, have you named him? And Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, no, Ya Rasulullah, but I would never name him before you. And the Holy Prophet said, Ya Ali, I would never name him before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's when Jibreel, he descends. Just as the name of the Holy Prophet was given to the mother of the Holy Prophet through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just as the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen was given to the father of Amir al-Mu'mineen, just as the name of Lady Zahra was given to the father of Lady Zahra, the same way the name of Imam Hassan alayhi salam was given to the Holy Prophet from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just look at how these individuals are named. They're not named by you and me. They're named by who? They're named by those that are considered to be masoom. They're named by those, inshallah, when we speak about Isma, later on in one of my lectures, we'll talk about what it truly means. And we'll talk about today, the only person or the only being that all Muslims agree that has Isma, infallibility. All Muslims agree, regardless of their creed, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot make any mistakes. All Muslims agree on this. We differ on whether or not the Prophet can make a mistake or not. Inshallah, we'll get to this when we talk about Isma. But Imam Hassan alayhi salam, his name is being given to him through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ali alayhi salam, his name is being given to him through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Holy Prophet, his name is being given through him too, through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these Masumeen, their names are being given to them through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just from the names, you understand that these personalities are not like you and me. Just from how they're named. Yet you have people that say, no, they're just like you and me. And today within the Shia community, no, the Imams are just like you and I. They're just like you and I. What the Wahhabis have said to the Holy Prophet, now you have Shias that say the same thing for the Imams. Are they just like you and I? Inshallah, when you read some of the ziyarat, for example, this ziyarat, the Nur Allah, are we the Nur, are we the lights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, we're not. When you read Ziyarat Jami Kabira, and you see how the 10th Imam, he's told us what imamat is, what the wilayat of the Ahlul Bayt truly are, then you realize, no, these personalities, they're nothing like you and me. These personalities, they're nothing like even the prophets. Their status is higher than the prophets. When you read Zat Jami Kabira. But we don't understand what we're reading. Or when we do read it, it's just quick. That's it. I just want to get the ziyarah done so I can get the sawab for it. It doesn't matter if I understand what I'm reading or not. No. And this is the month of Ramadan. I'm sure many of us started reading the Quran from the first of Ramadan. If I was to assume they're reading a chapter a day or 2 chapters a day, they should have been halfway done with the Quran because this is the 15th. Correct? If they read that much, how many of you actually understood what you were reading? How many of you actually contemplated about what you were reading? What do I mean? When Amir al-Mu'mineen was asked about the tafsir of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim by Kumail ibn Ziyad, some narrations say it was Kumail ibn Ziyad. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he started at night time. By the time he was done with just tafsir of Bismillah, it was Fajr time. Bismillah, just Bismillah. He hadn't even gone to Alhamd, just Bismillah. If we contemplated on just one verse of the Quran, would we be able to read as much as we read in the month of Ramadan? No. But what do we want? We want sawab. Just remember what the Holy Prophet was, remember what the Ayyimah alayhim salam said. Thinking over one verse of the Quran is better than 70 years of ibadat. Pondering over one verse of the Quran is better than 70 years of ibadat. 70 years of ibadat. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he came to this world. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he came to this world. The Holy Prophet named him the name that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. When it came to the upbringing of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, look at what he was surrounded with. There's so much to speak about because there's a difference between upbringing and education. Education is just making sure that someone is learned, that's it. But upbringing is more than that. Upbringing means that you take that education, you instill it in an individual to such an extent that there is no hypocrisy left in them. Meaning what? Meaning that whatever education you've given them, they've adhered to it from the bottom of their heart. For example, you can tell, a doctor can tell you not to smoke. Because he tells you, don't smoke, this is bad, the lungs, cancer, this, that. That doctor himself, he knows the outcome of smoking. Yet he himself, he smokes, or she smokes. Have they benefited from that education? No, they haven't benefited from that education. They haven't. The same way, that this is the Jismani doctor. Let's look at the Ruhani doctors. They tell you, don't, if you get angry, then do this. Or they tell you, if you get depressed, for example, if you get depressed, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, if you get depressed, read the Quran. Read the Quran. If they themselves are depressed all the time, then have they benefited from that nuskha that they're giving me? No, they haven't. They haven't. They're educated, yes. But what have they done with that education? Absolutely nothing. They haven't put it into practice. Whether it be that doctor who's telling you not to smoke, but he himself smokes, but that depressed alim who's telling you to read the Quran to cure your depression, yet he himself does not read the Quran to cure his depression. They have not educated, or they've been educated, but they have not practiced that. But when it came to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, you don't see any of this in his life. Why? Because the people that he was surrounded with, they practice everything that they preached. They practice everything. You look at the Holy Prophet. He's telling Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he's telling Imam Hassan the revelations that are revealed to him, to the point where Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he'd go from the masjid, he'd memorize everything the Holy Prophet would say. He'd go back home, he'd tell Lady Zahra. When Amir al-Mu'mineen, he'd come to Lady Zahra, she would tell Amir al-Mu'mineen about a revelation that was just revealed. About a revelation that was just revealed. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen, he'd ask, Ya Zahra, where did you learn this? And she said, your son Hassan told me. Your son Hassan told me. How old is Imam Hassan at this time? 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. At the age of 7, at the age of 6, Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Science today is barely catching up to what the Imams had said 1400 years ago, brothers and sisters. Science today is barely catching up. What do I mean? The Masumin, they said 1400 years ago what? A child, 7, 8, 9. That's why in Islam, when a child turns age of 7, it's recommended that you teach them how to pray. You teach them how to pray. Why? Because even today, what does science say today? At the age of 7, 8, 9, what happens to the mind? How is the mind of this child? They themselves say the mind of this child is like a sponge. Whatever it's given, it absorbs. It absorbs. And that's why today, when you have families where the parents, they're fighting or they're arguing in front of the child, this has an effect on that child. It has an effect on that child. If the parents are constantly arguing in front of the child, this child, they're going to grow up and think that this is normal. If the child is surrounded by people who are dishonest, if the child is surrounded by people who are unjust, if the child is surrounded by people who don't care about education, the child will grow up to take these qualities and make them their own. But if the child is around and the child is surrounded by individuals that care about education, if the child is surrounded by people or adults that are honest, that are truthful, this child will take those qualities and make those qualities his own. And when you look at who Imam Hassan alayhi salam was surrounded by, you see that it was taharat all around. It was taharat, it was ismat all around. It was taharat all around. So when Imam Hassan alayhi salam grew up, not one lie out of his mouth. When Imam Hassan alayhi salam grew up, not a care in the world for the world. Not a care. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and Abdullah ibn Abbas, they're going for Hajj. And on their way, they became hungry, and their caravan had already left. They were the only three together. When they were the only three together, they stopped by a Bedouin's place, and this was a woman. They ask if she has anything to eat, and she tells them that I only have this one sheep, this one ewe. I only have this one cattle. Milk it, and then slaughter it. You can drink the milk, and then I'll make kebabs out of that meat, and you can have it. What do? They do exactly that. They do exactly that. They slaughter the sheep, and they eat. When they were done, they tell her, we are Hashimis. We live in Medina. If you ever come to Medina, find us. They go to Mecca, they go for their Hajj. They come back. That same year, there was a drought. When there was a drought, there was no food for these Bedouins. There was no food, there was no water, nothing. So this lady and her husband, they come to Medina. When they come to Medina, Imam Hassan al-Islam, he recognizes the woman. And he sees that that woman is cleaning the streets, removing dung from the streets in front of the stalls of all these other merchants. She's removing the dung from in front of their stalls so she could get paid. Imam Hassan al-Islam, he sees this and he says, do you remember who I am? And she says, no, I don't. Me, my brother and my cousin, we stopped by at your place and we ate that sheep that you had. And she goes, oh yes, I remember. And Imam Hassan, he says that, did I not say to you that when you come here to Medina, you seek me out? She goes, I forgot. He goes, later on, come to my house. I live at this place, come to my house. Imam Hassan al-Islam, he goes and tells Imam Hussein al-Islam that that woman that we ate at, whose house we ate at, she's here now. He says the same thing to his cousin. She goes to Imam Hassan al-Islam. Imam Hassan al-Islam, he gives her 1,000 dirham. He gives her 1,000 sheep. And he says, go to my brother Hussein because you also fed him. Go to him because you also fed him. She goes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he asks, what did my brother give you? How much did my brother give you? And she says, your brother gave me 1,000 sheep and he gave me 1,000 dirham. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, this is 1,000 dirham and this is 1,000 sheep from me too. Now go to my cousin. She goes to the cousin. He gives her 1,000 dirham. He gives her 1,000 sheep. And she says, I only gave you all one sheep. I only gave you all one sheep. And they said, yes, because that's all you had. That's all you had. If we had more, we would have given you more. That is what it means to be just. That is what it means to be just. And you have people that say the justice of Umar. The justice of Umar. What justice? Inshallah, we'll get to it. I know it's Salat time. I believe 7:35 is namaz time. And inshallah, we have the next 13, 14 days. We'll talk about all of these lectures, inshallah. And it's the month of Ramadan. And I'll let you all go for wuzu right now. But it's the month of Ramadan. And this is the month where all of us, we try to make ourselves better. We try to make ourselves better in this month. But that is only because we don't understand the importance of the month of Ramadan. All of the Urafa, they used to train themselves throughout 11 months just for the month of Ramadan. They used to train themselves 11 months just for the month of Ramadan. What do we try to do? We try to train ourselves in the month of Ramadan for 11 months. We try to train ourselves just in 1 month. We're hoping that this 1 month gets us through 11 months. Whereas those Urafa, they're hoping that those 11 months gets them through this 1 month. Inshallah, in this holy month of Ramadan, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the path of Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins, to forgive the sins of all of those mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask for forgiveness on their behalf. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all of those marhumeen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask for forgiveness. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
मैसेज आया था नवीन भाई तरफ से कि वो जो पूरा गाने दारत पूरा वो इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट टाइम कराएंगे, इनकी तबीयत आज सही नहीं है तो फिर वो बाद में ऐलान करेंगे। शुक्रिया। लगाना पड़ेगा।